And we are live. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to A Bookish Moment. I'm Sarah Burr.
And I am JC Kenny, and this is so exciting. We got a superstar hanging out with us, Sarah. So it is time to get bookish.
Yes, it is indeed. We are joined, folks, by the legendary Maddie Day, who you may also know as Edith Maxwell. Maddie has written so many amazing books, won so many incredible rewards, and we're just so excited to have you here this afternoon to get bookish and talk about all of the wonderful books that you've had come out in recent months. Welcome to the show, Maddie.
Thank you both. It's a delight to be here and to see good friends, even if it's just on the screen. Yeah, thank you.
I love that we can connect in this manner. And for me, it was really exciting because we got to sit next to each other at the Agatha Awards banquet this past year at Malice Domestic. So it's great to be able to continue our conversation because while we were at dinner, we were talking about your brand new series that is out in the world, A Dot and Amelia Mystery. The first book, A Case for the Ladies, has got to be one of the most fun concepts for a historical mystery that I've ever heard, because you have taken a historical figure of Amelia Earhart and made her into a sleuth, which I just love. So Maddie, could you share a little bit for us what the series is about, kind of frame it for our audience members who may not be familiar with A Case for the Ladies?
Of course, I'd be delighted to. So A Case for the Ladies features Amelia Earhart and Lady PI Dorothy Henderson, Dot. And it takes place in 1926 Boston. A number of young immigrant women are being attacked or murdered, and Dot meets Amelia, and they start resolving to figure out who is killing these young women. And in fact, Dorothy Henderson is based on a fictionalized version, an alternate reality for one of my grandmothers, my grandmother Dot. And
Wow.
I just love giving her that reality.
When I read that, I thought that was the sweetest, like, what a beautiful tribute, because, and forgive me if I'm misremembering, but your grandmother was one of the first women to like drive an automobile across the United States, which so cool. And the fact that she teams up with Amelia Earhart of all people. How did you think about that pairing when you were originally kind of brainstorming the idea for this concept?
Well, I had already conceived of both my grandmothers becoming Lady PIs in 1920 Pasadena. So my grandmother Dot was a tall, fairly austere, dignified, elegant woman who liked her cigarette holders and her cocktail before meals, and she could cook and bake and stuff, but she was always the only one. She drove when she and my grandfather went places together, that she was the driver. And I'd always known this history of her being the oldest of 6 children, and the whole family driving 2 cars, coal motor cars, coal touring cars, from Indianapolis out to the West Coast to Oregon. Yay! Yeah, she's a Hoosier, absolutely.
All right.
Both my grandparents were. And then down to Berkeley, where my great-grandfather was going to be the West Coast regional manager for the coal motor company. And Dot was the oldest, and she drove one of the cars with her just younger brother, the only boy in the family. And she had her 18th birthday on July 4th of 1918 in Salt Lake City. So I'd already written, and my grandmother Ruth was completely different. She was little like me. She was completely domestic. She would bake from scratch and sew and knit and crochet, and she never drank, she never smoked, like completely opposite. And she knew how to shoot. So I came across this picture of her. She's around 20, and she grew up in western Idaho and eastern Oregon. And she's sitting on a rock outside in the west somewhere with a long homespun skirt, and she's reading a letter, and she has a rifle across her lap. And I went, what? What? Nobody ever talked about that. So, they have complementary skills, these two women. And I just wanted to give them alternate realities. Then I learned that Amelia Earhart had lived in Boston, in a western suburb, West Medford, where I had lived previously, and she worked at a settlement house in Boston. Like, nobody ever talks about this before she got famous, but she flew on the weekends out of an airfield in Quincy, south of Boston. And I thought, okay, she needs to go into a book. And why doesn't Dot get herself out to Boston temporarily and work on stuff with Amelia? So that's how it got started.
That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
That's such a wonderful origin story, because not only are we, as the reader, we get to meet Dot, who is this really, just like such a cool woman. In the setting that she's in, where she is a woman PI, and she's doing her best to focus her cases on helping other women get out of tough situations, which I thought was also like a very like admirable avenue that she went down within that particular industry. And so to have her meet Amelia, and we begin learning all of these really cool things about Amelia, is just, the concept, it's so well done. Absolutely wonderful. And we've got a bunch of folks in the chat popping in to say hi. Yeah. We've got Mizan, Farmhouse Reader, Susan, Sir Reads a Lot, Mark, DHB, all saying cheers, good afternoon, and hello.
Thank you.
Sir Reads a Lot, I believe, commenting on your grandmother, saying, wow, what a strong lady, right on grandma, which is wonderful. And preceding the gumball by 40 years, respect. So we've got some appreciation for your wonderful characters and the folks that inspired them. Tell us a little bit about the setting of, and I guess maybe what it felt like to visit the 1920s Boston era, and how it was kind of getting into that time frame. Yeah,
that was all new to me, because while I've lived in I'm a native Californian, but I've lived in Boston, in the greater Boston area, Boston and north to the New Hampshire border, where I live now, for over 40 years. But I didn't know about that era. And I have 7 books in my historical Quaker midwife mysteries, which are set here in Amesbury, in my town, in the top right corner of Massachusetts, but in the late 1880s. And so it was a whole new set of research: vehicles, food, language, clothing, police procedure, all of that. It turns out I love being an amateur historian. I have no academic background. I have a doctorate in linguistics, but I just loved it. So it was really fun to research that. And I have spent a lot of time in Boston, so I know the neighborhoods, and I know how you get around now, but how did you get around then? And how long did it take to go on the train or by horse or by car? And that was very rich to research that. And also all about Amelia, right? And her early years. Like, I didn't know any more than anybody else knew about her flight and stuff, but she was such a feminist. She kept a scrapbook of strong women in different professions, and she talked to girls about it. She coached the Chinese girls basketball team at the settlement house. They were sixth grade girls, and she was coaching them. This is real. Of course, that went in the book. And she was being considered for director of the settlement house at one point. I invented Dot's aunt, Aunt Etta, who is a single woman, a Wellesley College professor in her 50s, and who is on the board of the settlement house. So she's the way that Dot and Amelia got met each other. And she's the one who asked Dot to come out to solve a different crime earlier, a crime of arson.
So, it just, this just gets better and better as we're talking here. One of the things that I'd love to know, because you mentioned your Quaker Midwife series, which is fabulous. I do this every episode. So folks, you know what I'm going to do. If you haven't read them yet, go to wherever you're going to go and buy them all now, because they are fabulous, and you can thank Edith later for it. But, oh, you bet, and I'm not lying. It's totally true. But one of the things that, with your Quaker Midwife, that is 100% fiction. I mean, but based on it's historical. So you had to do the research. You have this additional with Dot and Amelia, you have this additional wrinkle that not only are you still writing historical fiction, which has to be accurate, but now you have a real life person that you have to make sure is accurate within all that. Could you talk about maybe a little bit about the additional challenge, or maybe the additional fun of making sure you got that part right on top of everything else?
Sure, of course. I have 3 point of view characters in that book. Dot and Aunt Etta and a woman reporter named Jeanette. And I considered having a point, it's like speaking through, seeing the world through Amelia's head. And I thought, I can't go there. I mean, I write dialogue for her, and I have read about, I've read some letters she's written. I've listened to videos and recordings of her voice. So I tried to be accurate in that, but I thought she's way too well known for me to write in her head, in her point of view. So I didn't do that. In my Quaker books, John Greenleaf Whittier is a secondary character, and he's a real person, and he lived down the street and was a member of the Quaker meeting. So he's sort of a mentor and friend to much younger Rose Carroll, the midwife. And again, I never wrote in his voice. There's dialogue, but that's just a step. Other people have done this. Other historical mystery authors have written in the voice of the very famous person. And for me, I just didn't want to do that. In terms of Amelia, I also didn't want to go up, find someone who owned an antique airplane and go up in it for the truth factor of the scene. And so I have Dot is terrified of flying, terrified. And she insists she's not going up with Amelia. And then there arises a situation where Jeanette is going to go up with her, and Dot is going to take some photographs for her. And Jeanette has terrible vertigo that day, and she can't go up flying, and she insists that Dot go up. So then I had to up the tension, up the suspense. This is good for mysteries, right? You make it really scary, and she's terrified. But I have a friend who lives in the next town who's actually a writer, and she's holds a small plane pilot's license. And so she talked me through, she doesn't fly an antique plane, but she knows little planes and how it tilts and what you would see if you're flying from south of Boston to Boston and back, and how you have to look at the windsock when you're landing and stuff that wouldn't have changed. And then I researched what the engine sounds like and how they park the plane and stuff. But that was a part of Amelia's experience that, in fact, I wasn't going to include it. And an editor strongly encouraged me to include it. And I said, okay, I will. Doc's going up in the airplane. And I think it really enriched it. I do. It was good.
I think it just definitely showcases the bravery that Amelia kind of does without batting an eye. And to have, and put her in these different situations throughout solving the mystery where, things happen while they're on a case, and, she's put in harm's way. And it's just like, how she approaches these situations so fearlessly. It was such, even though, we're not, we weren't in her point of view, the way that she's portrayed through all of the individuals that she interacts with. It brought about, I think, a sweetness and a kindness about her that I didn't know. Because you think from a historical standpoint that, she must have been very, singularly focused on this goal that she had. But when in reality, she was living her life and following her passions and doing all of these amazing things. And so I just absolutely loved her. She's a character that leaps off the page, and we learned so much, just not only about her, but about the world that women were subjected to in the late 1920s. And we've talked before on the show about the the layers that a title can have, and in this book, A Case for the Ladies, there is something about
on that title.
Thank you.
The fact that you have Dot, she's a female PI. She is doing cases that are helping women. And there's all of this kind of turmoil around, what is expected of a woman, in this time frame. And because of the victims who are immigrant women and kind of being tossed aside by the police, there was so much depth to it. And so maybe if you could share a little bit about the atmosphere of Boston during that time, and kind of what struggles that Dot, Amelia, Jeanette, and Aunt Etta all kind of face because of who they are.
Ever thus for women in many eras, they face a lot of obstacles. And, women in 1926 had made some few gains. They ditched their corsets. World War I made a big difference. Women were working, and they said, and everything was at a shortage. So hems came up. Hems were coming up at the turn of the century, but they came up more, and women said, forget the corset. We're just not doing that. Mm-hmm. And these really restrictive clothing, and automobiles and bicycles and things that gave women a certain measure of freedom. The vote that they fought so hard to get, white women, that is. But there's just still so much. And Boston has never been known for being particularly tolerant of immigrants and people of color. And, it doesn't have a history of being a super tolerant city. So I loved bringing that in. And as usual with many of us who write historical mysteries featuring women in the past, we probably make them a little taking chances and opportunities that might not have been completely realistic, but are possible. And some women did it. I'm not going to write a woman who just goes, oh yeah, that's fine, I won't do that. Mm-hmm. If when a man tells her she can't do that, not in my nature. So I'm not going to do that.
I was just going to say, we're the benefits for that. Thank you for that choice and for writing the characters that you do.
Thank you. You're welcome. Yeah.
And we have to, speaking of all of the characters that you write, we have to do a little bit of a shift in our focus because our time is flying by, as it always does. But we have another book to celebrate. You have a new book in your Cozy Capers book group mystery series coming out. And this is, so we're fast forwarding several decades. We're in
100 years.
Yeah.
And so we have a new book in the series coming out. Can you share for our readers what they have to look forward to in Murder at the Rusty Anchor?
Sure. I wish I had the cover, but I don't have any copies yet. Murder at the Rusty Anchor is the 6th Cozy Capers book group mysteries. They're set on Cape Cod in a fictional town, kind of like Falmouth, if anybody knows Cape Cod, near the elbow or one of the elbows, near the armpit, whatever. And Mac Almeida owns a bike shop, rental, repair, and retail, and is a member of a book group called the Cozy Capers that only reads cozy mysteries.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's my kind of book.
So the
Yes.
various books have been Murder at the Taffy Shop, Murder at the Lobster Shack, Murder at a Cape Bookstore. And I invented the Rusty Anchor. There we go. Thank you. Perfect.
Yeah, there we go. A little bit.
Yeah. The Rusty Anchor Pub in 2 books ago in Murder in a Cape Cottage. And, there's a rusty anchor that hangs outside the door, and there's a horseshoe-shaped bar. And I just love that pub, and I wish I could go down there. I wish I could walk down there after we end today and go get myself an IPA. So there's a body. Mac is walking to work, and on a rainy July morning, and she doesn't expect to have that many customers renting bicycles, but a woman she knows who's the manager and cook at the pub opens the front door and is frantic, and it's like 8:30 in the morning, and says, "Mac, you have to come help me." And Yvonne has just found a body behind the bar. And it turns out it's someone that many people in town have had experiences with when they were in high school, and a lot of people bad experiences with, and still are having. And so the librarian is a member of the book club, the book group, Flo, and she is being looked at seriously as a suspect. And so the book group goes to task and tries to figure out, okay, it's not Flo. We know it's not Flo. It can't be Flo. Can it be Flo? And solve that crime.
As a writer, I always find it, as a series continues to go on, how do you keep your sleuth inserting themselves in these mysteries? And so I was like, wow, like book 6, like what's it going to take for Mac to get involved? And
right.
Having a friend accused of murder, that's going to do it for you.
That's going to do it. With amateur sleuths, it's her business is at risk, or her best friend, or her brother's accused of it, or there's what Barb Ross calls the VGR, the very good reason why the amateur sleuth must get involved. And we depend on our readers to go, it's a little wonky, but it's such a good story, I'm going to keep reading.
Exactly. We depend on our readers for a lot of things in that manner. And again, with this being book 6, did you have any, I guess maybe in thinking back to writing book 1 or book 2 of the series, did you ever foresee Mac being this far along, or this kind of, has her journey veered in a different direction than you originally planned? Or is she kind of going where you had envisioned her when you first thought her up?
That's a great question. I usually get a 3-book contract for a series for the first 3 books. And I sometimes don't think beyond that, like, and I'm getting to book 3. I wonder if they're going to renew it or not. Then you're writing book 3 and you never know if they're going to renew it or not. What I didn't quite envision at the beginning is an ongoing subplot, in that her now husband Tim, who was the hunky boyfriend in book 1, really wants to have a family, and Mac is a little older than he is, and she is not getting pregnant, and what's going to happen with that, and how will they resolve that? They adopt kids? Will they do without? Will something happen and she'll be a mother at 41? Like, she's 38, I think, in this book, or I can't remember exactly. So that's something I didn't see happening exactly, and I'm kind of following it and writing down what people do, because I'm not much of a plotter.
Well, now this book 6, it's going to be out in a couple of weeks, correct?
June 25th.
June 25th. All right, folks, mark your calendars.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so with that, will you be doing any special events, whether in person or online, to celebrate the release of Murder at the Rusty Anchor?
I wish.
Yeah.
I've been putting out 3 or 4 books a year for about a decade, and I actually have almost nothing arranged for this one. I'll be on the Wicked Authors, of course, my group blog, and I'll be on Jungle Red Writers with a guest post on June 26th. And one of the recipes from the book will be on Cinnamon Sugar and a Little Bit of Murder, that blog, that wonderful recipe blog. But I don't have a lot. I don't even have any virtual events, but that's fine. But can I talk about July for A Case for the Ladies?
Of course, yes.
Just briefly. So July 4th is Dot's birthday, and July 26th is Amelia's birthday.
Ooh.
So I'm going to do a month-long celebration of A Case for the Ladies. The ebook will go on sale. The recipes I have on Mystery Lover's Kitchen, which is the fabulous blog on the 2nd and 4th Fridays, are going to be in celebration of the 2 birthdays. So anyway, and there'll be a giveaway on my day on the Wicked Authors on June 20 on release day, a special giveaway, and I hope people will. All that is on my website, so people can, on the Case for the Ladies page, people can find that.
That is the cool, like, what a great idea.
Yeah,
just
how
from
fun.
a author stand. Like, I got to figure out, like, oh man, that sounds like so fun. And so readers will get just like to know more about these characters, but through really fun avenues. And especially with Murder at the Rusty Anchor coming out, do you have, you mentioned like you've been writing 3 or 4 books a year. What does release day feel like to Maddie Day and Edith Maxwell? Is it this been there, done that now, or do you still does it still feel magical to you?
It still feels magical. And when I get the box of books and I open it, that feels magical. I don't always do an unboxing video like some people do, but I should. Yeah, that's magical. And I always try to have some bubbly on release day.
That's a good idea.
And yeah, just touch base with readers. And many people are super excited about this book. So, yeah.
Well, and speaking of excitement, sorry to just interrupt, but just want to let you know, Susan Morrell said, A Case for the Ladies went on my to-read list for Goodreads. Sounds amazing. So there you go.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I was just going to comment that I'm there with you on the unboxing videos, because I get the box. I'm so excited to open it that I just can't. I'm not thinking of anything else. Sounds like, oh, I probably should have done something with this. But and
I feel like through a video, I've got to get my hair and my lipstick, get presentable. And I'm so excited. I just want to open it. And I'm wearing my old sweatshirt and cutoffs or whatever. So.
Are you now, with all of these wonderful releases that you're celebrating, are you working on another project? What else? What's the crafting side of life?
Absolutely.
Like?
I am doing final tweaks on Scone Cold Dead, the 13th country store mystery. And Deadly Crush is the 2nd C.C. Barton mystery. That'll be out at the end of November. And I think that's the next one. Oh, no, the next one to write is the 7th Cozy Capers book, which is Murder at Cape Costume. So it's a Halloween book.
I love a good holiday.
I love a good holiday. And then after that, I'll write the 3rd C.C. Barton mystery, and I don't know about after that.
That sounds like you've got quite the to-do list, and we've got quite a lot of books to look forward to, which is always exciting from readers and fans. And so very much lots to look forward to.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope readers will find me on edithmaxwell.com and sign up for my newsletter, and you can see all my various series and all my short stories. And but it's been a delight to chat with you both.
Oh, well, thank you so much for being here. And real quick, you mentioned short story. I do want to. So there's kind of like an origin story for Dot and Ruth in a short story form. Am I making that up?
There it is.
Okay.
And that's all listed on the short fiction tab at edithmaxwell.com. But an excellent team is the first story featuring both of them where they meet. It describes how they meet. And then the second book is the second short story. Oh dear, I don't have it off the top tip of my tongue.
But it's on your short story tab on
Carol
your
in
website.
Carol in Pasadena, I think is what it's called.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then the first Dot and Amelia story is called Dark Corners, and that's also on my website.
Oh, perfect.
Folks, you got lots of reading to do, and it's all going to be fabulous.
Oh,
I love
thank
it.
you.
And JC, you also got a shout out in the chat from Susan that you said her last name correctly. So
Awesome.
congratulations. So that's
Well, when you got a real last name that's weird like Kangani, you try to figure out how to do it the right way. So
I love it. Well, Edith,
Thank you.
Writing is Maddie Day for our conversation today. Thank you so much for being here with us. It was wonderful
thank
to
you.
chat about your process, your amazing characters, and all of the wonderful books that are out in the world, but also that we have to look forward to. Thank you for sharing your time with us today.
Bless you both. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
It's been a delight.
And to our audience members who joined us live, we
Bye.
always appreciate you guys being here. We love getting bookish with you. Next week, we have 2 of our episodes airing. We've got a bookish moment with Melissa Green and myself to celebrate the release of Flying Off the Candle. And then on our bookish hour on Thursday, we're joined by Lynn Cahoon. So it's going to be a fabulous episode. Stay tuned for our socials and make sure that you sign up for our episode reminders so you can join us here. But for everybody who popped in and said hello, again, thanks for sharing your time with us. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon and stay bookish, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.